If you've been watching my videos on a regular basis, and if not, why not, you'll know by now that I really like my macro photography. So when Apexel got in touch, decided I want to try out one of their macro lenses, I immediately said yes. However, it's not a lens designed for any camera system. It's not a Micro Four Thirds lens, for instance. It's the HB100, and it's designed to fit onto one of these. So in this video, I'm going to go through what this lens can do, what I think of it, and how much fun you can have with it. I should point out, however, before I go any further, that Apexel have not paid me for this review. They've merely provided me with the lens, so my opinion is entirely my own, and it's going to be completely honest and unbiased. Let's get the basics out of the way first, such as what the HB100 is. Well, it's a supplementary lens that screws to a clamp, like so. And then you then fit the clamp to your mobile phone, or cell phone if you must, and you carefully align the lens with the lens on your phone, and you fit it to the longest focal length lens. I've got an iPhone 11, which has an ultra wide and a wide angle lens. Ideally, I prefer a longer lens than the wide angle. I could zoom in possibly, so that's one possibility. So if you've got a better phone than mine with a longer focal length lens, I suspect you're going to get better results. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see if I can borrow a better phone than the one I currently own. But that's essentially it. Once it's fitted, you can focus more closely than you could without the lens, so it does add capability to your phone. However, what you do lose is infinity focusing. So if you want to do the big landscape again, you'll have to take this lens off. The focusing range is roughly 50 centimeters to about 110, I think it is, if I remember rightly. Beyond that, it's going to be completely out of focus and you won't be able to get a sharp image at all. So that's the basics. Let's go and put it to use. Now I found my first subject, and it's a tiny spider on a plant here. Now I did have big plans to screen record my phone so you could see what I was doing, but I couldn't get my tripod close enough without disturbing this plant, so I'm going to shoot handheld, and I don't want to give you a vertigo or seasickness by waving the screen around as I'm moving my camera, but hopefully you can see how close I'm having to get to the spider. It is very close, in fact. In fact, it's much closer than the 50 centimeters, so it is a wee bit closer, but and the wind's moving around as well, which isn't helping. So this plant is blowing about. So I'm just taking multiple shots, focusing on the spider just by tapping on the phone to set the focus point, and I'm hoping that out of the multiple shots I take, I'm going to get one that's at least sharpish. But it wouldn't be the lens's fault, it'd be my fault for not picking the right moment. Between the breeze blowing that plant around quite vigorously and the slow autofocus on my iPhone, that was quite an exercise in frustration. But I think I got something. We'll see in a few seconds. But before I show the photo, just a quick note about the build quality, which I think looks excellent. The barrel of the lens is metal, and the lens itself, I think, has quite a few optical elements in it. It certainly seems distortion free from what I've seen on the back of the phone. Things do fall apart a bit if you have it misaligned, so you do have to be very careful to be precisely aligned around the iPhone camera. The clamp itself seems good. That's plastic, but it seems nice and sturdy. I've not noticed any movement in it, so that's great. So in terms of build quality, I think that's yeah, job well done there. I have noticed a tiny bit of flare when you point it up to the sun. Not that I can see the sun at the moment, it's gone behind cloud, but there's nothing outrageous. And to be honest, with this kind of work, I probably wouldn't be shooting in direct sunlight anyway. I prefer this kind of softer light for a macro anyway, so I'm not going to complain about that too much. But I'm impressed. impressed so far. We'll keep on trying though. Now here's the photo. Well, I've just discovered that if you use your phone constantly all afternoon, it will eventually run out of power. So that's put paid to my session this afternoon. Not to worry though, I'll come back on a different day or possibly another location and continue the video there. I will end for the moment though by talking about the little ring light that comes with the lens. Now it's LED, and I'll just turn it on. And it has different modes, such as daylight balanced and warm and combined, half on, half off, which is useful. It's not especially bright, but it could be useful when you're very close to your subject. Just add a bit of a catch light to it, or if your subject is slightly darker than the background, it could even out the contrast slightly. What's especially useful though is that it has a 52mm thread, and that's what allows you to attach it to the lens. Do this properly without it cross-threading. Best doing this sort of thing when it's flat like so. Which does mean that if I have a lens for my OM1 that's smaller than this, I could attach it via a stepping ring, such as my 60mm macro, which has a 46mm thread. So with a step-up ring, a suitable step-up ring, I could use it on that, which is excellent. I'm going to give that a go at some point. But like I say, it's not particularly powerful, but it could be useful, and I'd rather have it than not. Well, it's another day. The phone is fully charged up, and I brought my power pack just in case, so I can charge up on the fly. Before I go any further though, I should explain what this setup is. Well, it's a focusing rail, which I use a lot for macro photography. So that allows me to rack my camera backwards and forwards. And I find that sometimes that's far easier than focusing the camera. I'll roughly focus the lens, obviously, but then I can adjust the focusing rail very finely to get focusing spot on. It's a bit overkill for this though, but I'm finding it is allowing me to hold the camera, or the phone rather, more steadily than I could otherwise. And of course the phone is attached to a clamp, and it's yeah, it looks quite funky, doesn't it? I have been trying to use a tripod to shoot with the phone, but I'm finding it just too clunky. It's I'm not able to get close enough with the tripod, which is getting in the way, so I'm just hand holding, which does mean that I can't show you what I'm shooting until I've actually shot it. But anyway, I found these seed heads, so I think that's going to be my next shot. So I'll get that shot and we'll take a look at that. I'd also just mention that I'm shooting using Adobe Lightroom. You can't shoot RAW natively on this camera, I don't think. Like I say, it's an iPhone 11. I think you can with later iPhones, but not this particular model. I'm not sure about Android. I'll have to check into that. But shooting RAW gives me the control that I'm used to with my everyday camera. And it does mean that I can control things like exposure, white balance, and even noise reduction later in post-production. Shooting DNG files, which I'll import into my desktop at home later. Again, it's possibly overkill for what I'm doing at the moment, but I do like that control. I'm not sure what that says about me, but there you go. So what I can do with this lens is definitely being limited by my phone. Like I mentioned before, this phone only has a sort of ultra-wide to wide-angle lens. It doesn't have essentially a telephoto. Now I could zoom in, which would achieve the same effect, but that would be at the expense of resolution. So it's an interesting one that essentially it's the camera, my phone, that's holding the lens back, which is unfortunate. Perhaps I need to get a different phone. Nah, I'm happy with this one. But I might try sort of zooming in and see what that looks like later. So I'll try a few of those. But again, like I said, at the expense of resolution, which for things like Instagram is perfectly fine. And I suspect I will be printing these images out. So in that sense, this is perfectly fine, my phone, even zoomed in, I suspect. Zooming in definitely does help. So obviously the phone I have, if it had an extra lens, a slightly longer focal length, I think that would be hugely beneficial. Never mind. I have noticed though a little bit of flare, and I'll put an image on screen now to show you what I mean, which is quite strange because it's actually quite a soft light day today. There's no direct sunlight, but because I'm in woodland, the trees are creating almost a direct light, which is quite interesting. So that is something to watch out for. It simply requires just holding your hand to shade the lens, so it's not too much of a problem. But it is fascinating that I am getting a little bit of flare even on a day like today. So what do I think of the Apexel HB100 Macro lens? Well, it's not a true macro, it's not a one-to-one macro lens, it's more of a close-up lens, but a lot of the limitations stem from my phone, not the lens itself. I would like to try it on a phone with a longer focal length lens, because I think the difference could be significant. That said, I have had fun with it. I suspect I won't use it much for still photography. I have a very good macro lens for my OM1 in the 60mm, but I could see me shooting video footage with it. It will give me more scope for shooting close-up video for B-roll for YouTube, for instance. And it's not that large or heavy, so it could just stay in the camera bag. So in that sense, yeah, I think I'm glad I've got it. Now, this hasn't been my usual type of review video, but I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please press like below. Please do post a comment or a question. I'd be happy to answer anything photography related, not so much general knowledge, though I'm willing to give it a go. I'm not sure where I'm going to be next week. I think I might do a proper landscape photography or even a seascape video. We'll see how the weather goes. But whatever I do, I hope you have a very pleasant week, and I'll see you then.